Hello everyone, I'm Yogesh Babbar. I'm the Chief Data Officer for Government Property. And I sit in Cabinet Office, and I'm one of those few people in this room who do sit on the Executive Board, and the role of a data officer and an information officer has converged in our organization. I was brought in on the back of a burning platform on data and information, but also there are a number of opportunities that exist as we move forward, and I'll be talking about those opportunities as I speak about a strategy that we are embarking on to turn data into actionable intelligence. So I'll start with a bit on who we are. So as I mentioned, I sit in Cabinet Office, which is like a head office function in government, for those of you not familiar with public sector. So we sit in the heart of government, and our role is to lead on strategy, cross-departmental controls, policy. And we actually don't manage the property assets ourselves. We drive the management of the assets by developing strategies and controls. The government estate is vast. It's more than £350 billion in balance sheet value, which has gone up actually in the recent budget, and 20 billion running cost, which is huge, enormous, more than 250,000 properties. And this estate generates huge amounts, vast quantities of information and data. And our role is to ensure that this vast, fragmented sometimes, and disparate estate moves together and is focused on the priorities of government and the taxpayers. So we lead on ensuring that the properties are managed that enable economic growth. They are located in places where there is need for civil service and public services. And the need is met by where public sector properties are located. We also have ambitions to release public sector land to build more than 25,000 homes in the near term, and more than 160,000 homes in the longer term. Again, in places where there is housing shortage. We have been very focused since the credit crisis on making sure our estate is effective and efficient, and we use data to challenge departments on their savings goals, on their costs, but also set targets for them on effective utilization of the estate. We have consistently surpassed private sector in cost per person and space utilization per person after these initiatives have started. So data has really enabled change and improved the performance of public sector property more than private sector. We also want to ensure that our offices and places to work are creating a brilliant civil service in a way that makes the best use of taxpayers' money. And the decisions we make affect thousands of people. The decisions on location, there's a lot of location planning we do. We are trying to create clusters of economic activity across the country, reducing dependence on the central London Whitehall estate to deliver government priorities, and decisions such as these, and releasing land across departments, not just transport and defense, which affect the lives of hundreds and thousands of people. And there's a lot of responsibility on us to make sure we are making decisions that are best for you as taxpayers. One of the challenges we face is that we change frequently. Every few years, the government changes, and every year, the machinery of government also changes. So being such a giant or large ship, we are expected to maneuver and change and adapt to changing conditions, and policies change. We might move away from austerity, or we might continue austerity. Policies, we may have a deal, may not have a deal for the Brexit, or we may have a different deal. I don't know. And all of this uncertainty means we have to be prepared for change. So move on to next slide, which is again about change. So our own unit has undergone significant business change. Recently, we used to be called Government Property Unit. That no longer exists. Government Property Unit has split in two parts. The top part is the policy and strategy element, where I sit. And we also sponsor an agency which would manage government property. So moving government departmental properties into a central agency where it can be better managed. That is the role of the agency, the second part. Where I sit is more strategic. So I'm interested more in strategic information, strategic data. And my challenge is that data sits in different places, and there's a lot of fragmentation, and there's a lot of governance issues. So developing an information strategy, and I'll talk about why, what, and how today. The first question, the why, and I've spoken about what we do and the business change. And business change does provide, or did provide, a burning platform for us to be thinking about a new information strategy. But I feel that's not enough. A burning platform is not enough, or problems are not enough for us to embark on a fairly expensive change. We felt when developing the strategy that we should be focusing on opportunities. And opportunities come from outside. Opportunities come from stakeholders. And we spoke with a number of stakeholders, our suppliers, analysts, customers, private sector, people like yourself, senior leadership, finance, and a whole host of other stakeholders, gathering what was, where we could create opportunities, turning problems into future, again, I'm repeating this word, opportunities, and not focusing or bogged down by legacy issues. So I'll pick a few of them. So decisions made are opaque. That was one of the feedbacks we got from a number of stakeholders. Now that sounds like a negative legacy issue, but actually it is an opportunity to engage with people who felt our decisions were opaque. It's an opportunity to involve them into our information roadmap. We want to spend less time giving you information. And I think that is the biggest opportunity for people to say that, because that proves that they're looking for actionable insights. And that is our goal. We want to use information and data to produce actionable insights for future. So rather than, it was mentioned at the panel today, this back office, some people see us as a back office function. Rather than sitting in the back office, responding to change, we want to use insights to get in front of the business and drive change. So those are key opportunities I felt. And it was important for us. It is a cost. Information, data, and technology is seen as a cost with benefits that are hard to articulate. So starting the business case early is important. It's critical. So the question of what does business really want from data? And it was interesting for me, actually, to put that question to business. I increasingly discovered, or actually my views were confirmed, that business knew what their outcomes were, but a lot of times they did not know what data and insights can do for them. And as chief information officers and chief data officers, our role is to wear both hats and help business understand what we can do for them. And moving up the value chain, that's quite management speak, but I found that there were the analytics and the insights we were producing were quite localized. There were good pockets, but there were pockets where it wasn't being done. And it was about moving up to an insights-driven, transformed organization. People who were not just predicting or anticipating change, but are preparing for it and are informing it and are directing it. And I think there's a risk that businesses alone, could be without a blend of business and data tech capabilities, could be using data, thinking they're doing the right thing, but are moving into an incorrect direction. Using outdated information, for example, and thinking that that would inform the future. So I think what business wants is disruption from us, from us to lead them into a new and uncertain era. And how would we deliver it? So it's a standard for pillars in information strategy. And it's not just enough to look at any one of these. Skills are hard to find, and we all accept that. But simply focusing on people skills is not transformative. Or technology may not work. We may have legacy issues with technology. Some of us might struggle. But in order for us to produce what is an insight-driven organization, transforming data into actionable insights, it's important to look at all four of them. And they're all interlinked. It's no use having an expensive technology if people don't know how to use it, for example. The development of strategy, it's again standard where we are, what our vision is, what are the opportunities we are trying to harness, and how do we get there. And I think the important part is to, when we're thinking of strategy, when we're thinking of our vision and how do we get there, is to also think how will we measure our own performance. And are we measuring it simply in terms of what's important to us? Or are we thinking of business also? So I think for me, identifying metrics that were important to business was key to getting buy-in for this strategy. Linking the investment being made in technology with the improvement that would happen directly in business. And we used utilization metric, for example, to prove that if you can measure something, you can improve it. If you can't measure it, you may think you've improved it, but you may not have. So first pillar of our strategy, people, I would say this is the most important. I think this is the most important. We had sessions around leadership, and we've talked about it's critical. For me, there were two components to this. Leadership around what does business want from us? How do we align it to business priorities? How do we get our people to deliver the outcomes? And also giving them space to experiment and research. But also this was a change management exercise for my own team, my own people. I think, and both sides as a part of the leadership team are very important. The diagram below, shows it's not just important for a CIO or a CDO to be aware of what the business priorities are and be a business leader, as we were saying today morning, but it's also important for your teams. It's also important for us, our teams, our senior managers, to be thinking of their role as having two elements to it. There is clearly, having excellent data science, modeling, and analytic skills is fundamental. That's what we do. But also having policy communication skills, also having skills to storytell and think strategically and think as a business leader is very important, not just for a leader, but also for your teams. And I think that's the change. And different people take change differently. Some people might buy into this concept. Some people might say, no, I'm not a policy person. I don't want to be a business leader. That's why I'm tech. And how do you manage that? How do you take people along with you? I found what worked for me was to get ideas from my team and bring them together, get them to think of, show them the vision and get them to think about the strategy. So it's their strategy and not mine. But even so, there will still be people who respond to uncertainty with different varying levels of comfort. Some people enjoy uncertainty. Some people enjoy change. That's what they do, and they get very excited. And you may have to pull them back. They're very excited, and they want things to happen very fast. There are other people who get really uncomfortable with change. And for them, you need to take time out to help them. And I also found, change management to be a key component of this. But also using outsourcing options effectively, you may not, or at least I didn't have to insource all the things that were insourced in my unit. But what do I outsource? And when I'm outsourcing, how do I retain control and not lose control? That happens all too often in public sector. Data model, second pillar for us. So the connectedness word on the top heading wasn't, I don't even know if that's a word in English dictionary, but I felt a word like that wasn't being used as often as I would have liked. It was quite siloed, and that happens very often. But thinking connected, thinking strategically with a collective ownership of different areas, and connecting, joining the dots. That's where we want to start, and having data that can talk to each other, which requires a data architecture that's flexible, strong governance and ownership, and also transparency. People need to see how the data will create insights and how the insights will then drive outcomes. So having transparent view of the entire value chain. If I was to pick one thing from this, I would pick data that matters. Often I've seen data models responding to change by becoming bigger. So if for example, a business wants a certain outcome, you could change your data model, and that might result in hundreds and thousands of more data fields being captured. But I think it's important for us to focus on less data and not more. Having a flexible model where we have focus on data that matters, and not more data, less data is actually for us is the buzzword. So technology, I think technology is clearly a part of it, and for us it's the foundation of how insights can be developed in many ways. Our historical focus has been on technology, and data and insights have been a small part, but it's not just us. In the early part of this century, that was generally where the focus and investments were. Infrastructure was important, technology was important, but now things are changing, and we are changing. The future focus is likely to be information, and it is already information that's driving technology. So technology needs to work for us, for the business. And the sunk cost mentality is something that we come across, and I'm coming across, where if we have made an investment, how do we make an investment work? But stepping away can be hard and can be a cultural challenge. So I'm not going to processes next, but that's our illustrative conceptual model with clear process maps where data is flowing from various different sources into an unstructured, structured repository and serving the business. So just to summarize, key takeaways, looking at end-to-end data and information landscape, taking tech, people, processes change along with you as the chief information officers, developing KPIs that help measure improvement. So at every step, you can measure your own performance, and focusing on opportunities and trying to get away from problem solving, focusing on innovation and creating a culture where people have time and people do not fear making mistakes. Finance is key. Money is very important. Often this is seen as an investment, but turning that around and focusing on articulating the value. Communicating change continuously to your people, to the business, and using outsourcing effectively. And finally, technology is an important aspect. We should ensure that it follows our needs. Thank you very much.